Hey everybody, Paddy here, and thank you so much for watching and listening to TFN, which stands for the Effin News. Every week my mission is to find the positive news, the solutions, the inspiration and the good from all over Aotearoa, New Zealand, and bring it to you. Here it comes. Now I hardly ever get a real knight in here, and today I've got one called Sir Ian Taylor, who has a very simple, beautifully simple solution to probably this country's biggest problem and one of our biggest sources of shame. And how much good can two women in a van do on the streets of Auckland? I'll tell you what, an infinity of good. I'll introduce to you Bex and Juliet, and you'll be blown away. Now, Chris Wood is perhaps our greatest sports person, and today he's got some wisdom for me about getting older. And today I'm asking, how good would it be if we could get rid of pay wave style surcharges? Right. Let's get into it. It's time to meet our great Kiwi. Sir Ian Taylor is a legend for his pioneering work creating the beautiful graphics they use on TV coverage of things like golf, where you see the flight of the ball, and the America's Cup. He's a Sir for a good reason, but he's got a solution for New Zealand's massive child poverty problem, and that solution starts with himself. Hello, Sir Ian, and thank you so much for being on the Effin News.
Thanks, Paddy. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and your super. You are saving your super, or you're giving your superannuation back, your pension. You don't want it, you're giving it up.
It's not that I don't want it, it's that I don't need it at the moment. I remember, so I'm 75 now, so 10 years ago, I forgot there was a thing called superannuation. I mean, I was living fine, and someone said, "Oh, did you pick up your super?" I thought, No, I didn't. And then I thought, actually, I don't need it anyway, so I'll just leave it there for now. And they said, if you do that, the government gets to spend it. I thought, well, that's not going to happen. So I filled out the forms. It was really easy, got it. And then it just started flowing into my bank account. And then I saw this amazing concept, Share My Super. I knew I didn't need it at the time. And I looked it up and thought, I can do this. There's 12 charities. All the money goes to the charities. So while I can, I filled in a form, and it's been running for 5 years. I've never been back to the site. I get wonderful news about who the people are, and it was that easy. So it's not about giving it, it's about sharing it if you don't need it at the moment.
And you think there's lots of other New Zealanders who don't need this money? There's lots of, I don't know, do you want to use the term wealthy or
No.
what? No,
you see, this isn't about wealthy. We know that there's a lot of debate going on around about superannuation. That should it be means tested? Should the age be expanded? Well, actually, no, it shouldn't. You expand it out to 67. There will be 65-year-olds who really suffer. What we should do at the moment, because the government's not doing anything about it, why don't we do something about it? Why don't we find the 1% of people like me? So probably just use me as an example. So, I get the super. I've got a mortgage-free house. I pay for my golf membership at Otago, and I've got a country membership in Wanaka. I can go to the supermarket and buy a rack of lamb. That costs $18 because it's just my wife and I. My children have left home. They've all got good jobs, so my grandchildren are well looked after. Now, that sounds really privileged, and it is. But for me, it's a privilege that has been built on growing up in a state house where I never knew it was a state house. It was my home, and I was warm and I was fed. That's back in the 1950s. I went to school. All my books were there. We didn't have to buy books. I went to university. It cost me $15 a year to get a law degree. So sure, that's privileged, but the kids today and their parents have none of that privilege. So why don't we look at superannuation as being one of those funds that the government has, around $20 billion, that looks after those in need at one end, the superannuants, and there are lots and growing numbers of those. But what if we looked at it a different way and said, what about the kids at the start? They only get one childhood. Let's actually be clever and find a solution about this massive amount of money, and let us show the government what you can do.
Okay, and what kind of charity do you want your money to go back to then? Obviously one about children.
So that was the thing that attracted me with Share My Super. So Share My Super, it's interesting because it's described as a charity, and it is a charitable trust that's been set up by Liz Grieve, who's put $10 million of her own money so that it can run forever without ever using any of the money. So that's been brought in. But what they did was they looked at the charities working in child poverty specifically, and they found 12 so far, and they've said to those charities, let's make your job easy. Let's see if we can find the money to give to you. Because people probably don't understand this, but for some of those charities, up to 60% of their resources are spent every year having to raise money. What if we could say to them, hey, what you're doing at the cliff face, at the front line, is really important. Why don't we find that money for you, give it to you so you can do that job?
Yes, and you've said the forgotten moko, so you mean, is there a particular charity that you want your money to go to?
Yeah, so if it goes through Share My Super, it goes to 12 charities. So there have been 12 charities that they've picked, focused entirely on looking at child poverty. So, and what's really good about the 12 charities they've picked, and they monitor them, and they work, I've met the CEOs of most of them, and they work alongside them. And for me, what is really good is it isn't just about the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. There are organisations in there that are charitable who are figuring out ways to build a fence at the top. We need to stop the kids falling off the cliff as well. So that we need to deal to the ones that are down there, but what if we could get rid of the need for these charities, because with the investments we're making, we actually stop kids at the top falling off and give them a chance.
And I mean, the obvious question here is, isn't it the government's job to stop child poverty, not generous people in the top 1% like Surrey and Taylor?
It is. I'm not in the top 1% of wealthy. You know, it's not about the wealthy. And I'll just give you I'll give you a really great example. We got a message this week from a 64-year-old woman who came and said, look, I'm on a bit of I've got a small allowance and I don't need all of it. So could I give some of that to you till I get my super next year? I mean, that's phenomenal. We said to her, no, you don't have to do that. But she came back and said, I want to. Then there's the electrician who for 3 years has been giving $10 a week. He's got 2 children. He's still working. But he just said, I've got 2 kids. No kid should be in poverty. Will $10 a week help? So it's not just the wealthy.
Yeah, it's not the 1% of the most wealthy. No. It's 1% of New Zealand who can afford to do it and would want to do it.
Well, we're off target. It's 1% of the superannuants who every year the government hands out between $18 and $20 billion. So why don't we do it's not doing the government's job. The government has got to do something about this. But why don't we show them? Because every year they waste, another kid falls through the cracks. So this is a solution which can start working today. This week, Share My Super has raised more money, got more donors in than they did for the whole of last year. So people are listening. I believe we can get to that 1% if people like you help us share the message. Because for me, it's a no-brainer. You only give it as long as you can afford it, and you see the difference it's making to the whole country. If we want this country to be a place we're proud to live in, we've got to look after those forgotten moko who are born into the world, they have no understanding how they got there. They don't know that my moko don't need a warm at night, don't need to worry about food. It's their life every day. They're New Zealanders. They're our moko as well. So that's why I say, let's speak up for our forgotten moko, because they have no voice and the government's not listening.
And how are you going towards that target of getting 1% of superannuitants to give up their super?
Well, you don't even have to give it up. It's all or part, So you just, some are giving half. Some might only give $20, out of the 300. I just know that, I've been not surprised, but blown away by some of the negativity that has poured in, going, why should we be helping these bloody drug-smoking Pacifica and Māori? Why don't they just get off their bums? It's like, that's not who we're talking about. We're talking about the kids. We can make a difference to them. And I forgot the question, as I always do.
No. How are you going to the target of getting to 1%?
What
sort of numbers do you need?
Yeah. Well, so in the if we look at all the superannuants, that would be about 8,000 people like me. There's, I think, 840,000 getting it now. So it's only 8,000. And I have a different goal. So I picked 1% because 1% of 20 billion is a lot of money that will make a difference immediately to the charities. But what if we got to 5? What if sitting out there are 5% of people who go, actually, I don't need it at the moment either. And here is a mechanism that takes 2 minutes to hand across whatever you can afford, and it takes 2 minutes to turn it off when you need it. And I imagine that, with the cost of living, the way things are going, I'm probably going to have to take it back sometime. But I'm working now, I'm comfortable, so I don't need it at the moment.
So what is your message to other people in a similar situation to you that don't need their superannuation, that don't need their pension? What do you say to them right now?
All I say is just go to sharemysuper.org.nz. All of this material is up there. You'll see the charities that it's going to. What I'd say to them, or all New Zealanders watching at the moment, why don't we make this our Red Sox campaign? Why don't we as a country come together and surprise the world by what happens when the people who pay the government to do this job say, enough's enough. We're going to show you how to do it. You're handing out 20, but it's the biggest amount of money they hand out every year. And what really amazes me is 3 Chinese ships sail into the Tasman Sea, and suddenly we can find money everywhere to build new frigates. The week before, we heard the news that 50% of Pacifica kids are living in food deprivation. 156,000 kids are living in poverty, and that news is gone, but we can find money to build a frigate or a number of frigates, which the Chinese would destroy in 2 minutes anyway. I mean, it's important, but where are we putting our priorities?
And, just finally, before we get to the end, do you think superannuation should be means tested in this country if a government could ever have the political courage to do it?
Well, you see, that's a debate that's gone on for ages, and it will just go on and on for ages. So why don't we actually take the action and go, I've just means tested myself. I don't need it. So until I need it, here it goes. Isn't that a better solution? Who in one of the things the politicians could do, I just checked their guaranteed pay rise between the reading of the child stats this year and the child poverty stats next year. Their pay rise will take their base salary from $168,000 to $181,000. Now, they don't have to think about whether they turn the electricity off to cook foods why don't they stop talking and go, actually, I can give some of that to share my super. I bet they don't, and I bet you won't hear them debating it in the chamber.
No, that's right. And Sir Ian, before we go, we always ask our great Kiwi who come in here for some advice for other Kiwi. What advice do you have for others?
I love you've left the S off Kiwi. I love that. That is wonderful. Actually, it's advice given to me by my 8-year-old son. I remember I was asked to speak at their prize giving at school, and he came into my office in the house and said, Dad, I need to see your speech. This is an 8-year-old. So he took it away and he read it. And he came back and he said, it's pretty good, Dad, and I love the stuff about dreaming, that you've got to have a dream. Because I always say that if you don't have a dream, you won't see the opportunities going past you. I dreamt that. Oh, there it is. And I said, yeah, well, thank you, Ben. He said, but you've missed out the most important thing. So now I'm about to get advice from an 8-year-old. And I said, what's that, Ben? He said, well, it's fine to have all the dreams you want, but they don't come to anything unless you get out of bed. So I have enveloped that, I have embraced that, and I look at everybody around me in our company, and all I can say is, I'm with a group of people who got out of bed.
Thank you for that advice, and thank you for getting out of bed to come into This Is the Effin News, Sir Ian Taylor, a truly great Kiwi.
Thank you, Paddy.
Well, it's quite simple. Go to sharemysuper.org.nz and have a read. And what I reckon is if you aren't at that age yet, tell someone you know who is, especially if they've got a bit of money. They might get into this idea and we can get to that magic 1%. Now, next up, I'm excited to bring you today's Good Kiwi. Okay, now this is the first story I've done on TFN where I've involved a member of one of New Zealand's gangs. We're going to meet one today, but today's good Kiwi are 2 women in a small van, and the solution they are bringing to people like Chopper Dog has the potential to do so much good.
I'm Juliet Tay. I'm a GP. I have the privilege of working alongside Becky on Te Tipunamu Ho'ora.
I'm Rebecca Fenn, commonly known as Nurse Becky. I'm a nurse practitioner.
They call me Dr. Juliet.
We call it the bus.
We were talking about the challenges that our patients were facing, unable to access healthcare, and we both thought there must be a better way. And Becky thought, what about being mobile? What about a bus? Literally, let's just go to the people in a bus.
Hello, Chopper, and thank you for having me. Chopper, you get help from the Nurse Bex, Dr. Juliet. Can you tell me a little bit about what sort of people they are?
Yeah, they're good people. They just come out of the goodness of their hearts. They come out here and help me and my family. Because we don't really go to the doctors, eh? Me and our people anyway.
What colour are you wearing at the moment? What is
Magenta.
Is it magenta? You know, you don't really look like the kind of people that would rock up to a gang pad.
Funny
Two little people, one with an English voice, one Malaysian, Chinese person doing the do, and that's how we see it.
We
And
don't
that's
see
how
the
they
gang,
see us.
we don't see the patch, we don't see the chaos, but we see the person in front of us.
Everything in general. Yeah, just everything, bro. Diabetes. I'm pre-diabetic. Yeah. I'm on a bracelet at the moment too, so I can't really go anywhere.
So you're on active charges.
Yeah.
We put the patient first and allow them to share their story with us.
And that's how they see us.
Yeah.
We just roll with it.
We're there to help with
Yeah.
them with their health, and I think that helps, breaks down those barriers.
How many members are there in your chapter of the mob?
Quite a few of us. I'm not sure. Hundreds anyway. It sort of makes it easier for us too. I can just get the whole team to come here and they all get seen here once. That we just done there last week, I think it was.
I think that's the powerful thing about this initiative, is that it's having an impact on people that don't trust healthcare. It's bringing literally healthcare to their door. Day to day, we get referred individuals and we drive to their homes.
Hey Bella, how good is this nurse, this doctor?
Well, yeah, we can say they are nice, they are awesome, they are friendly people that came and helped us when we needed help with them. Jaira has diagnosed with dysplasia skeleton. He's having problem with hearing loss and a problem with visions.
And how old is Jaira?
Jaira is 5 years old now.
Jaira's quite small because of the dysplasia. Yeah.
They have short limbs, short bones.
It's about enabling our people that we work with to access health, better outcomes for them, better outcomes for their family.
This is a different way to look at delivering healthcare, because sometimes when that person is facing so many barriers, there's so much going on in their life that they can't take themselves to the doctors, and this is a way that we can break that down.
It is a solution. There's no doubt about that.
We need more buses.
We do.
Yeah, we do.
That's our
Would you
dream.
say that you...
Yeah,
that is
we'd
our
love
dream,
that. It
to,
would be.
to spread this idea and,
Yeah.
and ask other, health practitioners to pick up the challenge and do what we're doing.
Thank you so much to Nurse Bex and to Dr. Juliet. Your mahi is incredible. And I never thought I'd say this, but thank you even to Chopper Dog for supporting our good Kiwi. Because how often do gang guys put themselves out there like this? Now, I just want to say, a van with a doctor and a nurse in it going around South Auckland taking health to the people just seems so simple. We need many, many more of them. They make so much sense. Now, if you know of a good Kiwi who deserves attention, like that doctor and nurse, they don't have to have survived against the odds. Maybe they're just doing great stuff in your community. Please let me know. Email me, paddy@tfn.co.nz. Now it's time for How Good. All right, how good would it be if we never had to pay paywave style surcharges ever again? I personally find these charges are one of the most annoying aspects of my day. I'm sick of the little handwritten stickers or paper with sellotape saying 1.5% or 2.5%, even 3%, even more percent. And I'm even more sick of the extra surcharge of 1.5% or 2.5% or 3% or even more every time we swipe or wave our damn cards. And I have started getting extra annoyed with surcharges for tap and go payments after I covered what I called subscription theft last week. That's subscriptions that are easy to sign up to but hard to leave. Like subscription theft, I view surcharges pay wave style surcharges is one of those rorts that drain us of cash. At a guess, I reckon it costs me hundreds of dollars a year, if not over $1,000. And the more I think about how both subscription theft and pay wave style payments are taking money off hard-working Kiwis during a cost of living crisis, the angrier I get. And don't get me wrong, I don't blame the shopkeepers who add the surcharge here necessarily. The way retailers explained it to me is that the fees for using the credit card system, the paywave style card system, even if your card is not a credit card, are so high that it leaves them with no choice but to add on a surcharge. That's their explanation. But there's still something random going on here. Some shops have no fee, other shops have different fees to each other. That's why all these stickers and sellotape paper have different surcharges on them. It is a wild west. So how the hell do we, the consumer, know if they are actually passing on the charge or if we are being ripped off? The Commerce Commission is right now looking at pay wave style fees right now, and one option seems to be regulation that brings down the charges that retailers face for using it, which is great. The problem is that would still leave the ability to add surcharge fees. There would be no guarantee the savings would be passed on. It does not go far enough. So I am advocating for a full ban on the surcharge fees. Consumer NZ is too. It calls these charges a national embarrassment and points out that surcharges have been banned in the UK, the EU, and the Reserve Bank of Australia is also considering an all-out ban too. Even MasterCard wants this apparently. So my message to the Commerce Commission is this: consider a ban. Actually, don't consider it. Let's pass a law and ban surcharges. The retailers would then have to incorporate the costs in their prices. Pressure would go on the credit card companies to not use their technology or have their technology not used, I'm tired of these surcharges making me so bloody angry. I'm all about positive news and solutions. Banning paywave surcharge fees would be so positive and a great solution to the silent draining of our wallets. So how good would it be if we banned paywave style surcharges? Real good. And now it's time for something extra in today's TFN show, this week's other great Kiwi. Now, I reckon there are 4 New Zealand sports people at the top of the world's most major sports. Liam Lawson, Lydia Ko, Stephen Adams, and the man I met this week, Chris Wood. Now, if you don't follow football, Chris is in the world's most prestigious league in one of the top teams, and he's 4th on the list of goal scorers for the season so far. He is right up there with legends like Mo Salah and Erling Haaland. Massive. Now, I always ask our great Kiwi for some advice for other Kiwi, and I forgot to do that with Chris, but he did offer something that really rang true with me, and I reckon it's something that anyone who is starting to feel their age, like me, will want to hear. Have a look, have a listen. You started in the Premier League when you were, 17? Yeah, you're 33 now. For people out there, and this is not even just a football question, is there something in this about hanging in there and getting better as you get older and your dreams aren't over?
100%, yeah. I think there's a lot more I want to achieve in football, and that's weird saying that at 33 years old, but there is a lot more I want to achieve, and I want to achieve as much as possible. I believe age is just a number, and I'm hoping I can prove that and have proven that with being my best season at 33. There's a lot more to come, most definitely for me. So yeah, it's about, you never know when your best time's going to happen. It could happen at 17, it could happen at 25, but at the moment it's happened for 33 for me.
Well, all I can say is that it was bloody good to meet the great Kiwi that is Chris Wood. If Chris Wood could, Chris Wood would, and so would Paddy G. If I could, I would, and I did with Chris Wood. All right, that's TFN for another week. If you hear of anything or know of anything that can bring some positivity to the world of news in this country, get in touch. Paddy@tfn.co.nz. See you next week.